It's not easy. But learning guitar is not actually easy either. And they're two different systems, even though this is an Indian slide guitar. Imagine Hawaiian slide guitar, because that's where this instrument comes from. It's a hybrid of instruments. Consequently, it's a hybrid of culture. And I like to think I'm a hybrid of culture as well. My name is Shivam. That name was given to me at birth because my father was very much inspired by yoga and Indian music. And now the world's at a stage where it is very multicultural in many different countries, and there is all of this mixing of cultural values, ideas, and music is just a part of that. And this instrument is a great symbol of that. So it's a mix of a few different Indian instruments, a slide guitar, which is the Hawaiian, but mixed with sitar, sarod, and veena, the old ancient term which just represents a stringed instrument and quite possibly is the predecessor of all stringed instruments, is a veena. So I got the idea of using a crystal ball from the veena as my slide, as opposed to the conventional steel bar slide. And I've found that it also rewards me with a greater tone and a greater sustain, as well as a nice aesthetic touch. My website being crystalslide.com. Some nice shameless self-promotion here. And the instrument, while it's got frets painted on there or engraved quite beautifully, there's no actual frets. Everything that we do is to do with slide. So we're only sliding, majority of the time, a few strings, well, one string at a time. Which means, in theory, it's easier than guitar because we're not playing chords. However, because there's no frets, no physical frets that we're touching, it means that you need to develop your ear. And this is what Indian music is all about, really. And by doing this, it's just going to make you a far more versatile and skilled musician in whatever path you go, because ultimately music is all about your ear and how refined you are into listening and the listening process. So when you're tuning this instrument, that also teaches you so much ear training in that essential process to get all of the strings resonating. And by just taking the time and the practice of doing that, you're already learning so much about the instrument. The next is the sliding aspect, sliding and getting that perfect pitch in your precision of holding the slide or the crystal at the right place. The next part is the finger picking, and you can learn all sorts of rhythmical patterns. And I like to think that the left hand is kind of the grace, and the right hand is kind of the velocity. It has the fire. It gives it the the pulse, and the left gives it the beauty, if that makes sense. It does take time to learn, and there's no point for me to deny that, because it's not an instrument you're going to pick up in a day or so. But is it worth learning? Very much, because there's no instrument that I've come across that's quite like it, and I've devoted the last 10 years of my life to developing the ability of where I am now, and I'm very happy with sharing this music to the world, so I hope that means something to you as well.
How can you help people if they get to that frustrating point that it seems too hard or they're not improving?
there's always a balance, but the motivating factor comes down to why you want to learn. What's driving you? What makes you desire to learn this instrument? And if it falls under just a superficial reason, the instrument looks beautiful, or it sounded good when I played it and you want to sound like that, possibly you will come to these pitfalls and it will be hard to overcome them. What helped me really push through a lot of these pitfalls in my journey was having a teacher, a guru, somebody that was able to push me, and he did push me, but he not only challenged me, he inspired me, and he gave me both the reason to keep going and also the confidence in that I could keep going. And this is where Indian music has always held on to the tradition of the Guru Shishya Parampara, the teacher-disciple relationship. And if you have a teacher that can help you to overcome those challenges in many different ways, then yeah, it's going to give you that reason to keep going. It's going to give you that sense of confidence that you can do it, and that you'll be inspired to. Having other musician friends that can help you is a part of that community, and that helps a lot. And yeah, just engaging with other musical practices or listening to other musical forms that relate to this journey, and that will help you be inspired and keep you in that mindset of contemplating and expanding on the process of your own unfolding in the ideas and the techniques, in the musical framework, in all the different components that create this instrument and this form and style of music. And ultimately, this music is just music, and whatever direction you take it, it doesn't matter. It's going to help you. It's going to help you grow into a better musician. And ultimately, that's what we want. That's what I want as a musician, whether I'm an Indian classical performer or a music producer. I want to have a good ear, and I want to be able to share music in the best possible way.
Beautiful, well said. And what's the ideal accompaniment for this? What kind of instruments do you play with?
This instrument is essentially able to accompany any other instrument in the classical format. You have all sorts of combinations of sitars, violins, and all kinds of percussionists accompanying. I've played with all manner of instruments, including the Japanese flute, shakuhachi, to the hung pan drum, to didgeridoos, to, of course, conventional guitarists, and so on and so on. The only limitation is that in its open tuning, it has the specific key, and it's not easy to transpose if you're not already well versed within the instrument. So ideally, people will play in, say, what it's tuned in now, the key of D, or perhaps the fifth in A. And then it's technically quite easy to play along with if you're versed enough in the scale. But otherwise, tuning 22 strings can be problematic So these are factors to consider when you want to jam around. But when you get to a stage of confidence, then tuning doesn't become that great a deal. You just become mindful of what keys are optimum for this specific instrument. And if you want to play in all different keys, then you either should invest in a slide capo or invest in quite a few of these instruments to have in different keys.
Where are they made? How do we get them? How much are they?
India, since the last 30-50 years, have been incorporating the Indian slide guitar into its classical system of music, and consequently it's becoming slowly more and more popular and more accessible worldwide through quite a few different companies now producing them. They range from usually around $1,000, I'm talking in Australian dollars, and anywhere from that mark up. The one that you see before me would be over the $3,000 mark, and through my teacher, who's designed this instrument, the Chattarangi, it takes about a year for them to custom design, make, and ship. So it's not that accessible. However, through other contacts that I have, including the original maker of the Mohan Veena, which was designed by Baba Sindhu Bishwas, who passed away early this year, and designed by Vishwa Mohan Bhatt, the famous slide guitarist who did the Meeting by the River with Rai Kuda. They are quite accessible and very high value for what they're worth, and they range from about $1,500 from the student model to over $2,000, including shipping and a hard case, which is quite reasonable. And yeah, like I said, very, very good quality and a great model that matures with its age. From Calcutta, India, sorry. This is where the Hawaiian slide guitar came into India and where the Indian slide guitar was born.